buried under snow and twisted metal. Pilot Officer Leah Carter took her last shallow breath until a howl cut through the storm. Not from a wolf, but her wounded K9, Shadow, crying for help. No rescue was coming. They'd been marked lost, but someone heard them, and against all odds, he came. The blizzard hit without warning, swallowing the mountain peaks in a wall of white. Inside the cockpit, Leah gripped the controls as ice coated the rotors and wind slammed the helicopter sideways. Alarms shrieked. Warning lights flashed red across the dash. Mayday, Mayday, Unit 7 losing altitude. Her voice vanished into static. No reply. The aircraft bucked violently, then dropped. Snow blinded the windshield. Metal groaned. With one final jolt, the world exploded. Leah's helmet tore free on impact. Blood filled her mouth. Cold air rushed in as darkness pulled her under. Beside her, Shadow dragged himself through shattered glass, ignoring the gash along his ribs. He pressed his muzzle to her chest, listening for a heartbeat beneath the silence. His own leg trembled, useless from the crash, yet he refused to leave her side. Every breath he took fogged the frozen air around her face, a silent vow that he would not let her go alone. The cockpit tilted at a sickening angle, half buried in a drift that grew by the minute. Wind howled through broken panels like a mourning cry. Somewhere deep in the wreckage, a fuel line hissed, but no flame came. Only cold, only silence. Hours passed. The storm raged harder. Command had already scrubbed the mission. Too dangerous, they said. No chance of survivors. Search teams turned back, leaving only radio silence behind. Snow buried the wreckage deeper with every minute. Leah's skin turned blue. Her breaths grew fainter, each one a whisper against the cold. Shadow lay curled against her, shivering, his injured leg trembling uncontrollably. Still, he lifted his head at every gust, ears pricked, eyes scanning the white void. He wouldn't leave. Even if it killed him, he'd stay. The temperature plunged below zero. Frost formed on their eyelashes. Hope wasn't just fading, it was gone. And in that desolate silence, death crept closer with every heartbeat. Leah's fingers, once steady on the controls, now lay limp in the snow. Her last conscious thought had been of Shadow, his warm weight beside her during long patrols, his alert bark when danger neared. Now, he was her only lifeline, though neither could move. Time blurred. Minutes felt like hours. The storm didn't care about courage or loyalty. It only knew hunger, and it was devouring them whole. Miles away, in a cabin tucked between frozen pines, Daniel Hayes stared into dying embers. A retired K9 handler, he hadn't worn his badge in 10 years. Not since his own partner, Rex, died in his arms during a botched raid. The storm pounded the roof like ghosts demanding entry. He sipped bitter coffee, avoiding the empty chair across the hearth. Photographs lined the mantel. Him and Rex, young and proud, standing tall after a successful mission. Now, the house echoed with absence. Dust gathered on Rex's old vest, still hanging by the door. Daniel hadn't touched it since the funeral. Not tonight, he muttered. Just let the world stay quiet. Then a sound. Daniel lifted Leah into his arms, then scooped up Shadow. The weight threatened to buckle his knees, but he turned toward home. Behind them, shadows moved on the ridge, wolves drawn by crash and scent. Their eyes glowed in the dark. One snarl split the air. Daniel spun, pistol drawn. He fired once into the sky. Snow burst from the trees. The wolves scattered but didn't flee. They circled wider, patient, hungry. Shadow whimpered but tried to stand, tail low, guarding even in weakness. Rest, buddy, Daniel murmured, tightening his grip. Each step burned his lungs. Snow stung his cheeks. Leah's head lolled against his chest. Just stay awake, he pleaded, though she couldn't hear. Then the cabin, a dark silhouette through the storm. He staggered forward. Claws scraped wood behind him. He slammed the door shut seconds before jaws snapped at the frame. His breath came in ragged gasps as he leaned against the door, listening to the furious scratching outside. He shoved a heavy oak table against it, then turned to his guests, 2 lives hanging by a thread. Inside, the fire flickered weakly. Daniel laid Leah on his cot, wrapped her in every blanket he owned. Shadow crawled beside her, pressing his body close, as if sharing warmth could stitch her back to life. Outside, claws raked the door. Growls rose and fell like tides. Daniel shoved a heavy table against the entrance, then checked his pistol. 3 rounds left. Not enough. He fed logs into the fire, watching Leah's chest rise and fall. She stirred, eyes fluttering open. "They left us," she whispered, voice raw. Command called it hopeless. Daniel knelt beside her. "Not anymore. Help is coming. You just stay with me." At that moment, the growling stopped. Silence. Then a hum. Faint, growing louder. Headlights pierced the window. A snowmobile. Rescue. Relief crashed over him so hard his knees nearly gave way. He rushed to the radio, keyed the emergency frequency, and sent out a location ping he'd kept silent until now, afraid of drawing attention, but now certain they'd survive long enough to be found. Medics burst in, efficient and urgent. One stabilized Leah's neck, checked her pulse. Hypothermic, but alive, he said. Another hour, she wouldn't have made it. The other gently wrapped Shadow's leg, murmuring praise as the dog licked his hand. Leah reached for Daniel as they lifted her onto the stretcher. "You found us," she breathed. He nodded. "Wasn't going to let you die out there." Her gaze drifted to Shadow, who gave one weak tail thump. Even now, he watched over her. Outside, the rescue coordinator shook his head. "Storm forced us back. If you hadn't reached them," he didn't finish. Leah caught Daniel's hand. "Come see us," she whispered. "Shadow trusts you, and we could use someone like you." The dog nudged his palm, sealing the promise. For the first time in years, Daniel felt warmth bloom in his chest. Not from the fire, but from purpose returning. He watched as they loaded Leah and Shadow onto the sled, their forms vanishing into the swirling white. But this time, the storm didn't feel like an ending. It felt like a beginning. Later, back at base, doctors would say Leah survived by sheer will and the heat Shadow's body provided. Shadow would recover fully, his limp fading within weeks. And Daniel? He didn't return to his empty cabin. Instead, he visited every Sunday, bringing treats, sitting quietly while Leah and Shadow trained again. He never put on a uniform, but he walked beside them like he belonged. Because sometimes, the ones who save us are the ones we never knew were waiting. And sometimes, saving someone else is how you finally save yourself. If this story moved you, hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, what's the most loyal act you've ever witnessed?